Heat pumps are used to heat houses in some parts of the country. It's an air conditioner system that sends Freon through the system one way to take heat out of the house, cooling the house down. But it also has a reversing valve that sends the Freon through the system differently to bring heat into the house during the winter. Yeah, I know. What heat is there outside in the winter? Well, Freon doesn't freeze until about minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit, so anything freezing to you or me is still pretty hot to Freon. Remember, the air conditioning system, the evaporator coil in the house gets cold and the condenser coil outside gets hot. Well, the heat pump reverses things so the coil outside gets cold and the coil inside gets hot. And if the heat pump can't keep up with the demand for heat, then auxiliary heat strips kick in to boost the output of the system. That condensation in the summer on the glass of ice water, same problem in the winter, except that now the condensation forms on the coil outside and those coils can freeze up. So the heat pump has a de-ice cycle to keep that from happening. While we're talking about heat pumps, let's take a minute to go over geothermal HVAC systems. They're called ground source heat pumps. Okay, what does a heat pump do? It uses Freon to move heat energy. As an air conditioner, it moves heat from inside the house to the outside. As a heating appliance, it uses Freon to move heat from outside to the inside, and it gets that heat literally out of thin air. But where could you find even more heat? Well, if you go down into the ground, even just several feet, regardless of the air temperature, you'll find that the temperature of the earth is relatively stable year-round. A geothermal HVAC system simply taps into that heat source. The outdoor coils are immersed in water or an antifreeze solution. That solution, in turn, is pumped through a long loop, a tube buried in the ground. There are vertical loops. The tube runs up and down a hole dug in the ground some 200 feet deep. A horizontal loop is an option if the property is big enough. Or if there's a pond or lake somewhere on the property, the loop could simply be submerged in the body of water. Either way, the earth is used as a heat source. The antifreeze solution brings the heat to the Freon. The Freon brings the heat into the home. If you are considering a house with a geothermal HVAC system, listen to the motors and fans for squealing, grinding noises, yes, but also listen to the pumps for any unusual noises and sounds. Bring in a heating contractor who has geothermal background to look the system over carefully. Make sure you know where the ground loop is buried so you don't dig into it or plant a tree over it by mistake. Moving on, evaporative coolers or swamp coolers are an economical way to cool a house in dry climates. A pump moves water around to soak pads. A blower pulls air through the pads. The water evaporates, which cools the air. The cooled air is then sent down through the roof into the house, a downdraft cooler, or in through a window or wall, a side draft cooler. A whole house fan is an economical way to take advantage of cool summer evenings and nights. This large fan is mounted in the ceiling of the house just below the attic. Open the windows, turn on the fan, and the cool evening air is pulled into the house. The hot air goes up into the attic and then out through attic vents. Run the fan long enough and you not only cool the house, but you cool the attic as well. Okay, so what do you look for with HVAC systems? Start with a thermostat. Where is it installed? It should be out of direct sunlight. It should be out of the way of cold drafts coming from a door or window. All of these things could make the thermostat give a false reading. If it has a clock, is the display legible? Is the clock accurate? Is it a programmable thermostat? Programmable thermostats are usually capable of at least a 5-2 pattern. The 5 weekdays can be programmed with one heating or cooling pattern, and the 2 weekend days can be programmed with a different heating or cooling pattern. It may have a 5-1-1 pattern. The 5 weekdays are programmed the same, while Saturday and Sunday can each be programmed with different patterns. Think about how you spend your weekdays and weekends. Does the thermostat in the house serve your needs? 2. Turn on the furnace and listen. Do you hear squealing or rubbing or grinding sounds coming from the blower? Does the furnace light with a boom, or is there really noisy combustion? These noises all indicate problems. If it's an oil furnace, is the oil pump noisy? Do you see any signs of oil leaks? Gas furnaces, do you smell any gas? 3. Boiler-fired radiant heat. Do you see any signs of leaks coming from the boiler? How about from any of the valves, like the stop valve, the bleeder valve, the balancing valves? Are there any burning smells or odors coming from the boiler? Do you hear any winding or grinding noises coming from the motor or pump? Do you hear any noises coming from other parts of the system? The fixes could be simple, a faulty seal or air pockets in the pipes, for example. But regardless of the fault, you need to be aware of the problems so you can make sure they are addressed. 4. Air conditioning. Listen for odd blower noises and sounds as you would for forced air heating. But also do this. Hold a thermometer in front of the return air register to see how warm the air is going back into the system. Then find the supply register closest to the system to see how cool the air is coming into the house. If the system is in a good, safe working order, you should get close to a 20-degree drop across the coil. That is, the temperature of the air coming back into the house should be about 20 degrees cooler than the temperature of the air going in to be cooled. A system in a good operating condition will eventually cool a house as well as the insulation and your electric bill will allow. Window or wall units. How big is the unit in BTUs? You want to make sure it's big enough to cool the area it's supposed to cool. Look at the installation. Does it fit tightly into the opening, or can hot air leak into the house around the unit? Is the unit exposed to direct sun in the heat of the afternoon? The air conditioner's job is to take heat from inside the house and exhaust it outside. But if the AC unit is itself already in direct hot afternoon sun, it's going to be loaded with that much heat to begin with. It has to work that much harder to exhaust the indoor heat as well. Maybe a well-placed awning could give it some afternoon shade. Turn on the AC unit and check for cool air. Turn the lights on in the same room and watch them as the AC unit cycles on and off. Do the lights dim? Check the size of the breakers to make sure there's adequate power to the unit. It's a fact of nature. Air conditioning, whether it's a window wall unit or central air, is going to produce condensation, like that glass of ice water on the hot summer day. Make sure the window or wall unit is sloped so that the condensation drains to the outside, not the inside of the home. Look at the air filter of the unit. Is it clean? The filter, of course, is there to keep the coil clean, so check the coil too. Make sure the fins are straight so air can pass freely through the coils. 5. Get an overview of the system. Walk around the house and feel how evenly it heats and cools. Look at the house from the standpoint of airflow so you understand what doors and passages have to be kept clear. The current owner may have the heating system balanced to heat the house as he uses it. Maybe one of the bedrooms isn't being used, so the duct is closed off, for example, to that room. You might use the house differently, so you would want to heat it differently. Has the house been remodeled? Think about the floor plan from the standpoint of heat distribution. Is there an additional bedroom more or less off by itself? How is that room heated and cooled? Maybe it has its own wall furnace or its own air conditioning. Fine. But maybe it too is supposed to be heated by the main furnace. Turn on the blower and hold your hand over the register in that room. Is there adequate airflow? If not, it may be the result of a poorly thought out remodel job. Let's talk about air cleaners. They remove pollution from the air in the house. There are different types of pollutants. Particles. You're probably most familiar with this fiber filter. It catches the particles in the air that circulate through the house. Then too, the house could have an electronic air filter. Here, the air passes through an area where the particles are given an electrostatic charge. Then the particles are trapped by some sort of collection surface that routinely needs to be cleaned. They are removed from the air, which is the whole idea. There are gaseous pollutants. Some air cleaners, like activated charcoal filters for example, remove gases and odors by absorbing them. Some air cleaners clean the air by destroying pollutants with ultraviolet light, or photocatalytic oxidation, or ozone gas even. Keep in mind, though, that sorbents have pretty specific applications. That is, they're not going to remove everything. They will remove only what they are designed to remove. The point is this: if you have special respiratory needs, then make sure the air cleaner will in fact do what you need it to do and make sure it works.
I've got a lot more great stuff for you at houseiq.information. If you like what you've seen so far, do me a favor and tap the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos. And click the link to watch some more great stuff right now.